Chapter 1. Laying Plans. Sun Tzu said, "The art of war is of vital importance to the server. It is a matter of life and death, a road either to safety or to ruin. Hence it is a subject of inquiry which can on no account be neglected. The art of war, then, is governed by 5 constant factors, to be taken into account in one's deliberations when seeking to determine the conditions obtained in the field. These are: Number 1, the moral law; 2, heaven; 3, earth; 4, the king; 5, method and discipline. The moral law causes people to be in complete accord with their leader, so that they will follow them regardless of their lives, undismayed by any danger. Heaven signifies mechanics and bugs, patches and maintenance, server reset, and seasonal events. Earth comprises distances, great and small, danger and security, open ground and narrow passes, the chance of life and death. The king stands for the virtues of wisdom, sincerity, benevolence, courage, and strictness. By method and discipline are to be understood the organization of the alliance into its proper subdivisions, the graduations of rank among elders, maintaining the contributions of clan members, and the control of spending resources. These 5 heads should be familiar to every leader. Those who know them will be victorious. Those who do not will fail. Therefore, in your deliberations, when seeking to determine the military conditions, let them be made the basis of comparison in this wise: which of the 2 forces is imbued with moral law? Which of the 2 leaders has the most ability? With whom lie the advantages derived from heaven and earth? On which side is discipline most rigorously enforced? Which force has more power? On which side are elders and players more highly trained? In which force is there greater consistency, both in reward and punishment? By means of these 7 considerations, I can forecast victory or defeat. The leader that listens to my counsel and acts upon it will conquer. Let such a one be retained in command. The leader that does not listen to my counsel, nor acts upon it, will suffer defeat. Let such a one be dismissed. While heeding the profit of my counsel, avail yourself also to any helpful circumstances over and beyond the ordinary rules. Accordingly, as circumstances are favorable, one should modify one's plans. All warfare is based on deception. Hence, when able to attack, we must seem unable. When using our forces, we must seem inactive. When we are near, we must make the enemy believe we are far away. When far away, we must make them believe we are near. Hold out baits to entice the enemy. Feign disorder and crush them. If they are secure at all points, be prepared for them. If they are superior in strength, evade them. If your opponent is quick to temper, seek to irritate them. Pretend to be weak that they might grow arrogant. If they are taking it easy, give them no rest. If their forces are united, separate them. Attack them when they are unprepared. Appear where you are not expected. These military devices leading to victory must not be divulged beforehand. Now the leader who wins a battle makes many calculations before the battle is fought. The leader who loses a battle makes a few calculations beforehand. Thus doing many calculations lead to victory, and few calculations to defeat. How much more no calculation at all? It is by attention to this point that I can foresee who is likely to win or lose. Chapter 2. Waging War. Sun Tzu said, "In the operations of war, there are tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of gold, millions of dark steel, and as much copper. The expenditure will reach a total of 10 million dark steel and 1,000 hours of progress per day. Such is the cost of raising an army of 200 players." When you engage in actual fighting, if victory is long in coming, then players' progress will become slow and their willingness to fight is diminished. If you lay siege to a castle, you will exhaust your resources. Again, if the campaign is expended, the resources gained will not be equal to the strain. Now, when your progress has slowed, and your willingness to fight diminished, and your resources exhausted, other leaders will spring up to take advantage of your vulnerability. Then, no player, however wise, will be able to avoid the consequences that must ensue. Thus, though we have heard of stupid haste in war, cleverness has never been seen associated with long delays. There is no instance of a server having benefited from prolonged warfare. It is only one who is thoroughly acquainted with the evils of war that can thoroughly understand the profitable way of carrying it on. An intelligent veteran does not long for war, and all players are veterans after their first war. Continue to gain experience in materials, but forage on the enemy. Thus the players will have enough for their needs. Wars will always cause prices to go up as materials become harder to obtain. As higher prices drain players of their gold, their progress will be further slowed. With their progress slowed and their gold drained, players are unable to continue indefinitely as they are spending 40% of their time making up for lost progress. Hence, a wise leader makes a point of foraging on the enemy. One treasure chest of the enemy's is equivalent to 20 of one's own, and likewise a single health potion is equivalent to 20 of one's own inventory. Now, in order to kill the enemy, our players must be roused to anger, that there may be advantages from defeating the enemy. They must have their rewards. Therefore, in battle, when 10 or more enemies have been defeated, the player should be rewarded who killed the first. The enemy should be treated with respect. This is called using the conquered foe to augment one's own strength. In war, let your great objective be victory, not lengthy campaigns. Thus it may be known that the leader of armies is the arbiter of the server's fate, the player on whom it depends on whether the server shall be in peace or in peril. Chapter 3. Attack by Stratagem. Sun Tzu said, "In the practical art of war, the best thing of all is to take the enemy's entire army, whole and intact. To shatter and destroy it is not so good." Hence, to fight and conquer in all of your battles is not supreme excellence. Supreme excellence consists of breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. Thus, the highest form of leadership is to balk the enemy's plans. The next is to prevent the growth of the enemy's forces. The next in order is to attack their valley, then attacking the enemy's players in the field. And the worst policy of all is to besiege walled castles. The rule is not to besiege walled castles if it can possibly be avoided. The preparation of supplies will take 3 whole weeks. Therefore, the skillful leader subdues the enemy's troops without any fighting. They capture valleys and castles without laying siege to them. They overthrow kings without lengthy operations in the field. With their forces intact, they will dispute the mastery of the king, and thus, without losing a single player, their triumph will be complete. This is the method of attacking by stratagem. It is the rule in war: if our forces are 10 to the enemy's 1, to surround them; if 5 to 1, to attack them; if twice as numerous, to divide our army into 2. If equally matched, we can offer battle. If slightly inferior in numbers, we can avoid the enemy. If quite unequal in every way, we can flee from them. Hence, though fighting a small army can cause much hardship, in the end it must be captured by the larger force. Now the king is the bulwark of the server. If the bulwark is complete at all points, the server will be strong. If the bulwark is defective, the server will be weak. There are 3 ways in which a king can bring misfortune upon their army. 1. By issuing commands to the army, ignorant to the fact that they cannot obey. It is called hobbling the army. 2. By attempting to govern an army without being aware of the conditions causing restlessness in the minds of the players. 3. By promoting elders and making alliances without careful consideration. This shakes the confidence of the players. But when the army is restless and distrustful, trouble is sure to come from within. This is simply bringing anarchy into the army. Thus we may know that there are 5 essentials for victory. 1. They will win who knows when to fight and when not to fight. 2. They will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. 3. They will win whose army is animated by the same spirit throughout all its ranks. They will win who, prepared themselves, wait to take the enemy unprepared. 5. They will win who has not brought about their own misfortune. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and you know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. If you know yourself and not the enemy, for every victory gained, you will also suffer a defeat. If you know neither the enemy nor yourself, you will succumb in every battle. Chapter 4. Tactical Dispositions. The good fighters of old first put themselves beyond the possibility of defeat, and then waited for an opportunity of defeating the enemy. To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy themselves. Thus, the good fighter is able to secure themselves against defeat, but cannot make certain of defeating the enemy. Hence the saying, one may know how to conquer without being able to do it. Security against defeat implies defensive tactics. Ability to defeat the enemy means taking the offensive. Standing on the defensive indicates insufficient strength. Attacking a superabundance of strength. The leader who is skilled in defense hides in the most secret recesses of the earth, while a leader who is skilled in attack flashes forth from the topmost heights of heaven. Thus, on the one hand, we have the ability to protect ourselves, on the other, a victory that is complete. What the ancients call a clever fighter is one who not only wins, but excels in winning with ease. Hence their victories bring them neither reputation for wisdom nor credit for courage. They win battles by making no mistakes. Making no mistakes is what establishes the certainty of victory, for it means conquering an enemy that is already defeated. Hence the skillful fighter puts themselves into a position which makes defeat impossible and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. Thus it is that in war, the victorious strategist only seeks battle after victory has been won, whereas those who are destined to defeat first fight and afterwards look for victory. A strong leader cultivates the moral law and strictly adheres to the method and discipline. Thus it is in their power to control success. In respect of military method, we have firstly measurements. Second, estimation of quantity. Thirdly, calculation. Fourthly, balances of chances. Fifthly, victory. Measurement owes its existence to earth, estimation of quantity to measurement, calculation to estimation of quantity, balancing of chances to calculation, and victory to balancing of chances. A victorious army opposed to a routed one is as a pound's weight placed in the scale against a single grain. Chapter 5. Energy. Sun Tzu said, "The control of a large force is the same principle as the control of a few players. It is merely a question of dividing up their numbers. Fighting with a large army under your command is no different from fighting with a small one. It is merely a question of instituting signs and signals. To ensure that your whole host may withstand the brunt of the enemy's attack and remain unshaken, this is effected by maneuvers, direct and indirect. That the impact of your army may be like a grindstone dashed against an egg, this is effected by the science of weak points and strong. In all fighting, the direct method may be used for joining battle, but indirect methods will be needed in order to secure victory. Indirect tactics, efficiently applied, are inexhaustible as heaven and earth, unending as the flow of rivers and streams. Like the sun and the moon, they end but begin anew. Like the 4 seasons, they pass away to return once more. There are not more than 5 musical notes, yet the combination of these 5 give rise to more melodies than can ever be heard. There are not more than 5 primary colors, yet in combination they produce more hues than can ever be seen. In battle, there are not more than 2 methods of attack, the direct and indirect, yet these 2 in combination give rise to an endless series of maneuvers. The direct and indirect lead on to each other in turn. It is like moving in a circle. You never come to an end. It is like the bending of a crossbow. Decision, the release of the trigger. Simulated disorder creates discipline. Simulated fear creates courage. Simulated weakness creates strength. Hiding order beneath the cloak of disorder is simply a question of subdivision. Concealing courage under a show of timidity produces an enemy who believes you are afraid of them. Masking strength with weakness will change the enemy's tactical decisions. Thus, one who is skillful at keeping the enemy on the move maintains deceitful appearances according to which the enemy will act. They sacrifice something that the enemy may snatch at it. By holding out baits, they keep the enemy searching, spread out, and confused, then lay in wait for an ambush. The clever combatant looks to an effective combined energy and does not require too much from individuals. Hence their ability to pick the right players for each position and utilize their combined energy. Chapter 6. Weak points and strong. Sun Tzu said, "Whoever is first to the field of battle and awaits the coming of the enemy will be united, well-positioned, and fresh for the fight. Whoever is second to the field and has to hasten to battle will arrive staggered, out of position, and exhausted." Therefore, the clever combatant imposes their will on the enemy, but does not allow the enemy will to be imposed on them. By holding out advantages to an accord, or by inflicting damage, they could make it impossible for the enemy to draw near. If the enemy is grinding or working, they can harass them. If they are grinding safely, they can starve them out. If they seek progress in the magic square or secret peak, they can be forced to move. Appear at points which the enemy must hasten to defend. Travel swiftly to places where you are not expected as a unit so that nobody falls behind or arrives early and can get picked off. An army may make great progress without distress. if it is allowed to progress where the enemy is not. You can be sure of succeeding in your attacks if you only attack places which are undefended. You can ensure the safety of your defenses if you only hold positions that cannot be attacked. Hence, that leader is skillful in attack whose opponent does not know what to offend, and they are skillful in defense whose opponent does not know what to attack. O divine art of subtlety and secrecy, through you we learn to be invisible, through you inaudible, and hence we can hold the enemy's fate in our hands. You may advance and be absolutely irresistible. If you make for the enemy's weak points, you may retire and be safe for pursuit if your movements are more rapid than those of the enemy. If we wish to fight, the enemy can be forced to engage even though they hide in safety if we attack some other place that they will be obliged to relieve. If the castle gate is well guarded, switch to targeting the enemy. If one switch is inaccessible, focus on the switches that are, and your enemy will be able to defend all points as well as a single united front. If your opponent has to defend 3 separate valleys, they are at a severe disadvantage. By feigning an attack on one valley and splitting your main force into 2, you could easily gain an advantage in one or both of the other valleys. 2 feints could be used while a single force is launched on the third, which means that we shall be many to the enemy's few. If another server's strongest players invade your server in an attempt to expand, they are weak at home and can easily be dominated or forced to return. And if we are able thus to attack an inferior force with a superior one, our opponents will be in dire straits. The spot where we intend to fight must not be made known, for the enemy will have to prepare against a possible attack at several different points, and thus distributing forces in many directions. The numbers we shall have to face at any given point will be proportionately few. Simply winning a single engagement will not capture a castle or even a valley, but this process must be repeated several times over again until the enemy's fighting spirit and body has been critically injured and several days of progress lost. It is at this time the enemy will grow overly cautious and cowardly. Losing sight of victory, they will begin to only think of themselves, and now your army isn't fighting another army of equal strength, but a score of powerless individuals who are only looking after themselves and have lost all faith in their leadership's ability. As orders begin to be questioned or outright disobeyed, this is when they are the most vulnerable and will feel the full wrath of your entire military force coming down upon them as a large boot falls upon ants. If the enemy strengthens one point of defense, they will weaken another. If they attempt to reinforce all points, they will be weak everywhere. Numerical weakness comes from having to prepare against possible attacks. Numerical strength from compelling our adversary to make these preparations against us. Though the enemy may be stronger in numbers, we may prevent them from fighting. Scheme so as to discover their plans and the likelihood of their success. Carefully compare the opposing army with your own so that you may know where power is superabundant and where it is deficient. An enemy who is slow to progress and fight is probably being threatened with demotion or expulsion from the clan and would be a great target to become a spy for your own army. In making tactical dispositions, the most important thing is to conceal them, and you will be safe from the prying of the subtlest spies, from the machinations of the wisest brain. How victory may be produced for them out of the enemy's own tactics, that is what the masses cannot comprehend. All leaders can see the tactics whereby I conquer, but what none can see is the strategy out of which victory is evolved. Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. Wars are won by avoiding what is strong and striking what is weak. Just as water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows, the skilled soldier works out their victory in relation to the foe whom they are facing. Therefore, just as water retains no constant shape, So in warfare there are no constant conditions. Whoever can modify their tactics in relation to the opponent and thereby succeed in winning may be called a heaven-born king. Chapter 7. Maneuvering. Sun Tzu said, "In war the elders receive their commands from the leader. The elders are then responsible for coordinating the army. That being the most difficult task is tactical maneuvering. This consists of turning misfortune into gain and the devious into the direct." Maneuvering with an army is advantageous, with an undisciplined army most dangerous. Thus, if you don't spend energy on training, consume resources for rewards, and sacrifice favor for fair punishment when enforcing the rules, all progress in war will be halted and your elders will fall into the hands of the enemy. The stronger players will lead this rebellion with the jaded ones following, and on this plan, only 10% of your forces will remain under your command. We can take it then that an army that is untrained is lost. An army that is unrewarded is lost. An army that is undisciplined is lost. We cannot enter into alliances until we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors. We are not fit to lead an army into battle unless we are familiar with the layout of the battlefield, its safe zones and pitfalls, its monsters and bosses, its resources and quests. We will be unable to take natural advantages into account unless we make use of our environment. In times of war, conceal your thoughts and you will succeed. Whether to concentrate or to divide your troops must be decided by circumstances. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. When you take a volley, the spoils should be divided among the army fairly, or you will be defending it next week with only half of your force, while the half who feel cheated turn against you. When communicating with a large force, the spoken word is often insufficient and can easily be misunderstood or relayed back to your enemies. Hence the institution of signals, call signs, attack patterns, defense formations, and code names that will confuse enemy spies while using superior communication methods so it is easier for a well-trained army to notice, understand, and execute your precise orders. Your army being focused on a single signal will form a united force, making it impossible for the brave to advance alone or the cowardly to retreat on their own. This is the art of handling large armies. When an enemy is allowed to progress, their spirit is keen. When their progression is halted, their mood is diminished. A clever leader therefore avoids an army when its spirit is keen, but attacks it when it is sluggish and inclined to retreat. This is the art of studying moods. Disciplined and calm, to await the appearance of disorder and chaos amongst the enemy. This is the art of retaining self-possession. To progress where the enemy cannot, to offer rewards while the enemy is fighting over scraps, to support one another while the enemy is fending for themselves. This is the art of husbanding one's strength. To refrain from engaging an enemy whose ranks are in perfect order, to refrain from attacking an army positioned confidently, this is the art of studying circumstances. It is a military axiom not to advance on an enemy that is in a superior position, nor to oppose them when you are in a disadvantageous one. Do not chase an enemy who simulates flight. Do not attack players whose temper is keen. Do not swallow bait offered by the enemy. Do not interfere with an army that is surrendering. Do not add insult to victory or defeat. When the enemy has been beaten, do not press a desperate foe too hard. Offer them peace in exchange for total servitude. Due to the concealment of your plans and tactics, even a spy will be more beneficial to your army than to the enemy's army if the rules are rightfully enforced and obeyed, while on the other hand, gaining a skilled fighter from your enemy is like recruiting 40 fresh players of your own. Such is the art of warfare. Chapter 8. Variation in Tactics. Sun Tzu said, "In war the elder receives their commands from the king, collects their army, and concentrates their forces using combined energy and natural advantages. When in unsafe territory, do not make camp. In areas that are high in traffic, join with your allies. Do not linger in dangerously isolated positions. If an enemy is maneuvering against you, you must resort to stratagem. In desperate positions, you must fight." There are roads which must not be followed, players which must not be attacked, areas that must not be contested, castles that must be besieged, commands of the king which must not be obeyed. The elder who thoroughly understands the advantages that accompany variation of tactics knows how to handle their troops. The elder who does not understand these may be well acquainted with the environment, yet they will not be able to turn this knowledge to practical advantage. So the student of war who is unversed in the art of war of varying their plans, even though they are acquainted with the 5 advantages, will fail to make the best use of them. Hence, in the wise leader's plans, considerations of advantages and disadvantages will be blended together. If our expectation of advantage is tempered in this way, we may succeed in accomplishing the essential part of our schemes. If, on the other hand, we are always ready to seize an advantage, we may fall right into the enemy's trap by our own doing. The art of war teaches us not to rely on the enemy not coming for us, but on our own readiness to receive them, not on the chance of them not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have prepared for their attack or made our position unassailable. There are 5 dangerous faults which may affect an elder. 1. Recklessness, which leads to destruction. 2. Cowardice, which leads to betrayal. 3. A hasty temper, which can be provoked by insults. 4. A delicacy of honor, which is sensitive to shame. 5. Overly protected of their army, which exposes them to worry and trouble. These are the 5 sins of an elder, ruinous to the conduct of war. When an army is defeated, the cause will surely be found among these 5 dangerous faults. Let them be a subject of meditation. Chapter 9. The Army at War. Sun Tzu said, "While all players have goals, each player's goals are hindered in war, so the goal should be to end the war as swiftly and efficiently as possible, which cannot be done if the army continues to progress as they were before the war started. Areas for grinding or working that are near safety of portals or open cliffs become more valuable. The more areas you travel through in a short span of time will increase the enemies that you encounter, as staying in the same spot for a long period of time will guarantee attack at some point. Enemies may use allied clans to fight a proxy war, while they will evade attack by joining a peaceful clan while unable to fight and rejoin the clan at war when ready. The enemy can fight an endless war in this nature, so resources must be consumed to enter war with any clan who aids your enemy if you ever want to end the war in victory. When an inferior force is attempting to kill a boss, do not interrupt them mid-fight. Instead, wait until the boss is almost defeated so that their focus is divided and the enemies that are defeated will not have time to come back and contest the spoils of war with reinforcements. Make it a rule to never get caught camping in the same area twice. Your enemies will remember each area that they have caught you and revisit those areas often. If you always camp in an area that is difficult for your enemy to find, they will expend a great amount of effort searching for you and become discouraged. If there are allies in the same region, join them, as allies that are closest to the entrance and exits of an area will be able to alert the others when danger is present before they would normally become aware. As progress becomes more difficult during war, it is important to help your allies through difficult areas, as each time they succumb to defeat from monsters, it will affect their ability to perform at their best in war. If you are attacked by the enemy while grinding or working, hunt down and kill one of their allies to make them feel directly responsible for that death as a consequence of their actions. Return to farming or working deep in a zone with a few allies waiting in ambush even deeper, as they will surely use their ability to track you down and be too blinded with rage to see the trap before it's already sprung. Send a scout into each floor of the secret peak and magic square to estimate the amount of enemies in each area. Form parties of superior strength and hunt them down, preventing them from access to easy progress. Divide up the resources using a single ticket and repeat the process as many times each day as possible. If you notice an enemy that is hesitant to attack, it is likely because they have reinforcements on the way. If you then attack them and they do not flee, the reinforcements are very close and very powerful. Do not fall for the bait, as attacking is just a test that reveals their true intentions. Humble words and an increased preparation are signs that the enemy is about to advance. Violent language and driving forward as if to attack are signs they will retreat. When the weakest enemies come out in vast numbers, it is a sign that the enemy is forming up for battle. Peace proposals unaccompanied by complete obedience indicate a plot. When there is not much running around and the players fall into formation, it means that the critical moment has come. When some are advancing and some are retreating, it is a lure. When players sit, lay down, or begin dancing, they are weak from a lack of progress. If they are chatting, they are bored and eager for battle. If the enemy sees an advantage to be gained and makes no effort to secure it, the players are exhausted. If the players remain inactive while online, it means they are waiting for the war to end. If a player becomes antisocial except when it comes time to discuss strategy, it means they have defected. If a player's unhappiness is growing over time and is suddenly replaced with joy, it means they have defected. If well-mannered players begin suddenly taunting the enemy, it means they have defected. If the soldiers are angry, they will disobey orders. If the elders are angry, it means the players are disobedient. If the leader is angry, it means the elders are disobedient. If there is fighting amongst the soldiers, the elders' authority is weak. If ranks and titles are shifted about, it is an opportunity to employ disgruntled players as spies. When members of one clan only team up with another and never join allies from other clans in the alliance, it points to disaffection among the rank and file. Too frequent rewards and promises signify that the enemy is at the end of their resources. Too many punishments betray a condition of dire distress. When the enemy speaks with compliments in their mouth, it is a sign that they seek a truce. If the enemy is angry despite being treated with respect, the situation is one that demands that you proceed with caution. If our troops are no more in number than the enemy, that is amply sufficient. It only means that no direct attack can be made. What we can do is simply concentrate all of our available strength, keep a close watch on the enemy, and obtain reinforcements. If players are punished before they have grown attached to you, they will not prove submissive, and unless submissive, they will be practically useless. If when the players have become attached to you, punishments are not enforced, they will still be useless. Therefore, soldiers must be treated in the first instance with humanity, but kept under control by means of iron discipline. This is a certain road to victory. If in training soldiers' commands are habitually enforced, the army will be well disciplined. If not, its discipline will be bad. If an elder shows confidence in their army but always insists on their orders being obeyed, the gain will be mutual. Chapter 10. Terrain. Sun Tzu said, "We may distinguish 6 kinds of terrain, to wit, 1. Accessible ground. 2. Entangling ground. 3. Temporizing ground. 4. Narrow passes. 5. Treacherous ground. 6. Positions at a great distance from a safe zone." Ground which can be freely traversed, teleported to, and tracked by both sides is called accessible ground. With regard to ground of this nature, be before the enemy so you may pick the best position on the battlefield, and be aware of bosses that will attack anyone in range in their strength, as well as any portals that offer reinforcements and safety. It is important to know which side of a cliff can be escaped over and keep your back to it for easy access and to prevent the enemy from flanking your blind side. If an enemy tries to run off of a cliff and their path is blocked, they'll be forced to run through your army instead. Ground that can be abandoned but is hard to reoccupy is called entangling ground. This is usually areas just outside of safe zones and areas on cliffs that require the enemy to leap or airwalk to. If you advance from entangling ground to attack, it may be impossible to retreat back the way you came. When the position is such that neither side will gain by making the first move, it is called temporizing ground. Such is the ground surrounding the World, Secret Peak, and Magic Square bosses. Even though in a position of this sort the enemy should offer us an attractive bait, it will not be advisable to take it, but rather retreat feigning weakness and enticing the enemy into a bait of your own so that you may deliver your attack later with the advantage. With regard to narrow passes, if you can occupy them first, let them be strongly garrisoned and await the enemy. If the enemy is defending a narrow pass, do not go after them if the pass is fully garrisoned, but only if it is garrisoned by a weak force. Treacherous ground is that which cannot be tracked or teleported through. It is often wise to leave scouts at the entrances to such ground who can warn the army of the enemy's movements from the safety of entangling ground. It is advised not to adventure to these places alone, as reinforcements will always take longer to arrive than usual. If you are situated at a great distance from a safe zone, and the strength of the two armies is equal, it is not easy to provoke a battle, and forcing a fight will be to your disadvantage. Instead, it is possible to appear weak and draw them out of the safe zone while having your allies teleport to a nearby boss to surprise them in an ambush. These 6 are the principles connected with Earth. The elder who has attained a responsible post must be careful to study them. Now the army is exposed to 6 calamities, not arising from natural causes, but from the faults for which the elder is responsible. These are 1. Flight. 2. Insubordination. 3. Collapse. 4. Ruin. 5. Disorganization. 6. Rout. Other conditions being equal, if one force is hurled against another 10 times its size, the result will be the flight of the former. When the common players are too strong and their officers are too weak, the result is insubordination. When the officers are too strong and the common players too weak, the result is collapse. When the players are angry and insubordinate, and on meeting the enemy give battle on their own account, from feeling of resentment, before the commander can tell them whether or not they are in a position to fight, the result is ruin. When the elder is weak and without authority, when the orders are not clear and distinct, when there are no responsibilities assigned to players, and the ranks are formed in a careless manner, the result is utter disorganization. When a leader, unable to estimate the enemy's power, allows an inferior force to engage a larger one, or hurls a weak army against a powerful one, and neglects to place powerful fighters in the front rank, the result must be rout. These are the 6 ways of embracing defeat, which must be carefully noted by the elder who has attained a responsible position. The natural formation of the earth is a soldier's best ally, but a power of estimating the adversary, of controlling the forces of victory, and shrewdly calculating difficulties, dangers, and distances constitutes the test of a great leader. Whoever knows these things, and in fighting puts this knowledge into practice, will win the battle. Whoever does not, nor practices them, will surely be defeated. If fighting is sure to result in victory, then you must fight, even though the king forbids it. If fighting will not result in victory, then you must not fight, even at the king's bidding. The elder who is victorious without coveting fame and retreats without fear of disgrace, whose only thought is to protect their army and do good in the service of their server, is the jewel of the kingdom. Regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Look upon them as your own beloved sons and daughters, and they will stand by you even unto death. If, however, you are unable to make your authority felt, kind but unable to enforce your commands, and incapable of quelling disorder, then your soldiers must be likened to spoiled children. They are useless for any practical purpose. If your army is ready for battle, but the enemy will not engage you, victory is unobtainable. If the enemy will engage you, but your army is not ready for battle, victory is unobtainable. If your army is ready for battle, and the enemy will engage you, but heaven and earth make battle impossible, victory is unobtainable. Hence the saying, if you know the enemy and know yourself, your victory will not stand in doubt. If you know heaven and earth, you may make your victory complete. Chapter 11. Managing an Army. Sun Tzu said, "The principle on which to manage an army is to set up one standard of courage which all must attain. How to make the best of both the strong and the weak, that is a question involving the proper use of managing an army. It is the business of an elder to be quiet and thus ensure secrecy, upright and just and thus maintain order. They must be able to mystify their army by false reports and appearances and thus keep them in total ignorance. By altering their arrangements and changing their plans, they keep the enemy without definite knowledge. This prevents the enemy from anticipating their purpose. Bestow rewards without regard to rule. Issue orders without regard to previous arrangements. And you will be able to handle a whole army as though you had to do with but a single player. Confront your army with the deed itself. Never let them know your design. When the outlook is bright, bring it before their eyes, but tell them nothing when the situation is gloomy. Success in warfare is gained by carefully accommodating ourselves to the enemy's purpose. This is called the ability to accomplish a thing by sheer cunning." Chapter 12. The Use of Spies. Sun Tzu said, "Raising an army of 200 skilled fighters takes time and many resources. Armies may fight each other for months before the victory is decided in a single battle. This being so, to remain in ignorance of the enemy's condition is the height of inhumanity. One who acts thus is no true leader, no help to their server, no master of victory. Thus what enables the wise leader to strike and conquer and achieve things beyond the reach of ordinary individuals is foreknowledge. Now this foreknowledge cannot be obtained from experience nor by any deductive calculation. Knowledge of the enemy's dispositions can only be obtained from others. Hence the use of spies, of whom there are 5 classes. 1. Local spies. 2. Inward spies. 3. Converted spies. 4. Doomed spies. 5. Surviving spies. When these 5 kinds of spies are all at work, none can discover the secret system. This is called divine manipulation of the threads. It is the server's most precious faculty. Having local spies means employing the services of people who frequent a specific area. Having inward spies, making use of officials of the enemy. Coveted spies are getting a hold of the enemy's spies and using them for our own purposes. having doom spies doing certain things openly for the purposes of deception and allowing our spies to know of them and report them to the enemy. Surviving spies, finally, are those who bring back news from the enemy's camp. Hence it is that none in the whole army are more intimate relations to be maintained than with spies. None should be more liberally rewarded, and no other business should greater secrecy be preserved. The enemy spies who have come to spy on us must be sought out, tempted with bribes, led away, and comfortably housed. Thus they will become converted spies and available for our service. It is through the information brought by the converted spy that we are able to acquire and employ local and inward spies. It is owing to the information again that we can cause the doom spy to carry false tidings to the enemy. Lastly, it is by their information that the surviving spy can be used on appointed occasions. The end and aim of spying in all 5 varieties is knowledge of the enemy, and this knowledge can only be derived in the first instance from the converted spy. Hence it is essential that the converted spy be treated with the utmost luxury. I believe in miracles since you came along, you sexy thing.